The purpose of this video is to explore the most significant challenges impacting large system transformation work, using Medicaid enterprise modernization as an example. This video builds upon the challenges commonly present in IT delivery models in general and typical challenges present in large, complex organizations. To recap the two preceding videos very briefly, we defined the following elements of the process. We have the current state environment and the outcomes and impacts currently being achieved by the organization. When a solution or idea is identified that is believed to improve the current state, we launch an improvement project with the solution idea as the scope. During the project, we perform activities to complete the scope, which include the delivery of outputs. These activities and outputs hopefully result in the improvement of the organization's outcomes and impacts, at which point these become the current outcomes and impacts, and the process repeats with the next scoped solution idea. Underlying everything we do, we must remain compliant with governance, regulatory, and compliance items. Across this lifecycle, we've articulated 5 primary challenges so far. That government environments are not well positioned to generate good scope ideas that will truly improve outcomes.
That we don't clearly express our desired outcomes or measure them to find out if our solution ideas are improving outcomes or not.
And that our organizational and existing technology environment prevent us from implementing scope quickly, making it take way too long to find out if a scope idea fails to achieve desired outcomes. When we left off from the last video, we were to the point at which our frustrated leaders who have accountability for the current outcomes issued a major scope request to replace our aging technology with something modern. This brings us to the lead time challenges associated with Medicaid enterprise systems modernization. Let's start by exploring the governance constructs states must navigate to move from their current state technology to modern future state technology. This includes 4 primary constructs, which may sound similar to governing approaches in other government domains and some corporations. There's MITA, the Medicaid Information Technology Architecture, published by CMS, which includes process guidance to help states assess their current state and identify areas of improvement. MITA also targets goals of standardization across states to incentivize reuse and interoperability between different state IT investments. There are APDs, or Advanced Planning Documents, which states must use to request federal match funding from CMS before launching work. There's procurement, the process by which states engage vendors and contractors to perform work. State and federal procurement laws define how states must acquire software and services in a fair, unbiased manner. And lastly, certification, the process by which CMS ensures states have met their requirements, which allows states to receive higher federal financial participation to support ongoing operations. A typical life cycle for these activities includes the following. States start by drafting a planning APD to request funding to do planning. This includes ideas states propose for modernizing. The planning APD must be approved by CMS before federal funding can be allocated to planning activities. If the state requires vendor services for planning, a procurement process is also needed to secure the planning vendor, which is optional or could take place in parallel with planning APD approval. Vendor procurements and contracts must also be approved by CMS. Next, the real planning begins, which can include but may not be limited to creating MITA documentation, current state assessments, business process redesigns, future state architecture planning, road mapping, procurement activities to secure an implementation vendor, and development of an implementation APD, requesting the funding for the implementation work. CMS approval is needed again before implementation work can commence. Then implementation activities can start, which are commonly referred to as DDI for design, development, and implementation. The certification framework from CMS provides guidance for activities like status reporting, testing, and security during this phase. CMS is engaged throughout the process through gate reviews to ensure progress is occurring based on the published plan. For states to continue receiving enhanced funding, they must perform an operational readiness review before releasing the idea to users. As you can imagine, given all of these steps, states typically measure the lead time of modernization ideas, the time from modernization approach or solution idea until we know if the solution improved an outcome, in years or decades. A multi-year delay between conceiving a solution and validating its outcomes is objectively too long. Even if we assume every idea was perfect when it entered this process, we know the world is moving too fast for this to work. Technology is currently changing at a rate much faster than this process supports. Rapid developments in large language models, artificial intelligence, and machine learning alone continue to disrupt how we interact with products and solutions. In addition to the rapid changes in technology, organizations are constantly evolving. People move to new jobs, different legislatures and governors are elected, pandemics happen. Change is inevitable, and we can invalidate or render solution ideas obsolete very rapidly.
From an acquisition standpoint, most state procurement laws require the competitively sourced rebid for software products and services every 10 years. Given this life cycle, states often must start procuring the next solution as soon as they've finished implementing the last to remain compliant.
This process is often in flight concurrently for several major IT systems at once.
And critically, the cost of inaction continues to escalate. Every year spent in this cycle is another year in which recipients, providers, and staff must struggle with outdated processes and technology.
If our goal is to deliver outcomes to increase impact for our citizens, this approach does not seem likely to achieve this result. Let's take a look at the 5 challenges we've identified so far, and how our current governance constructs address these challenges. The 4 governance constructs we've listed, MIDA, APDs, procurement, and certification, have historically focused mostly on the ideas, or the scope, challenge, providing guidance to states to help develop plans for modernization, then solidifying those ideas into funding and procurement vehicles, then managing the delivery of those ideas in accordance with the predefined plan. MIDA also acknowledges the need to understand the current state architecture in order to identify better ideas for modernization. Lastly, the recently published Streamlined Modular Certification launched a focus on measuring outcomes rather than outputs, a major shift to address the outcomes challenge.
Unfortunately, states have struggled to transition to an outcomes focus, and a universal list of Medicaid outcomes to measure is not available as a resource to states.
This analysis gives us insight into potential gaps in our current approach for addressing our key challenges. We observe a common instinct to focus on scope, to try to get it right from the beginning. However, we know from experience that we can work to improve ideas entering the improvement engine, but we are unable to eliminate the possibility of prioritizing scope that won't achieve our desired outcomes in our unique environments. We also know that even if we're measuring our outcomes, we won't have a true assessment of whether a scope idea improves them until we've delivered it. Additionally, having a really good plan provides little value if nothing is delivered for years. Unfortunately, the more we focus on getting to the answer up front, the longer our lead times become. It seems clear that a better strategy for addressing these challenges would be to place more attention on reducing lead times, better navigating the current state culture and technical environments, and defining clear outcomes. To put it another way, the final challenge brought to light through this analysis is our human nature to design the best solutions in advance, leaving critical issues unaddressed. A fundamentally better strategy is needed, requiring a departure from traditional methods. We are in search of such a strategy, and would love to hear from the community if there are examples out there that have been performed to successfully address the fundamental challenges laid out in the prior videos. We hope to hear from anyone with success stories. Thanks for taking the time to listen. See you soon.
Thanks for watching. I hope the challenges video gave a voice to your lived experience. A common question I get at this point is, great, thanks for the list of problems. What are we supposed to do about it? I have a lot of ideas and strategies that could be implemented, but I've learned not to suggest solutions without first agreeing on the problems those solutions are intended to fix. If you've figured out a way to tackle this problem set in these environments, I'd love to hear what folks have found that works. If you agree with how I've characterized these problems, are frustrated with watching people continue to try to solve them with the same traditional methods, and want to join me in creating a better strategy, let me know. I look forward to the ongoing dialogue.